Joyful Danish. Stay human. Is it even still possible to stay human? Maybe. It's not too late. Alright, welcome to Joyful Danish. I'm your host, Daniel, a cryptotherapist, and wanted to try to improve health in tech, mainly Web3 and Web2. And that's also why I decided to make this podcast, to invite different people and different topics of relevance of how we maybe can improve and create more awareness about all this technology around us. So my guest today is Skare. And welcome to the show.
Thank you, Daniel. It's a delight to be here. And I had to start out, if I may, by asking you, what exactly is a cryptotherapist?
Yeah, good question. Because it is a little bit self-made, I guess, because nobody really focuses on this. But if you know people who buy crypto, Bitcoin, stuff like that, you can sometimes question their mental health.
You are exactly right. I often think that they do it for some kind of self-soothing. And you're also looking at something where you said maybe you should actually go into therapy. So I think you coined it perfectly. That's a really nice phrase.
Yeah, because my original profession is actually psychomotor therapist. But then the question will also be, oh, what is that? And like, oh, that sounds fancy, right? But what is it? Even though it's like actually a Danish bachelor degree. It started in Denmark, but now it's like in 29 countries. Also here in Portugal, actually, where you work with the body and the minds. But it can quickly become too out there, and many people in crypto in particular never really considered therapy in their life.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought like, okay, what would be the best way to pitch this? Let's see, what if I'm a man that actually have been in crypto since 2018 and actually are a proper therapist, actually have a degree in what I'm doing, and then translate those tools into a language that they can understand. So I actually made a book that I only use with clients, so it's exclusively to clients. It's over 500 pages, where I try to cover any topic you can think of that can happen, and it's like sort of like invisible enemies, because it's still so new area, this crypto thing. I often see it as a picture of like, Klondike, back the gold rush, where people bought a piece of land and hoped to strike gold, and they went mad for it. That's kind of what we see today, just in a digital version. But that's what I thought also that could be interesting to talk with you about.
It's very futuristic. I think that many jobs could actually improve if people looked at what cards do you have on your hand, what skills do you have, what's your inner drive, your passion. Sometimes you have something where people will say, when you're dead and people should talk about you, then they will talk about kind of like your inner cards, right? That Daniel was such a passionate person, or he was so curious, or Anna talked a lot all the time. So those, I think, are the cards that you can't remove from a person, because it kind of like defines us. Do you think that, when you're looking into this future where, and also what we're going to talk about, that we don't just want high tech, we also want high touch, that you can put yourself into play by looking at your core skill set, or the thing that entices you the most, and then combine it with something that's very techy, like you say that you are a crypto therapist. Have you seen Foundation? The Asimov said that he wrote Foundation many years back, which is kind of like the coolest science fiction series, and it's made into, I think it's an Amazon series. It's really, really good. It's in the future, but there they have a job. I had to look it up, which is it's psychohistory. Psychohistory, yeah. It's a fictional science that combines history, psychologically and mathematical statistics to predict the future of large populations.
What was the TV show again?
It's called Foundation. By Asimov. So it's in the future, and the whole premise is that these psychohistorians have realized that civilization will come to an end. And now they can choose to either push it, and then it will take it would take like 10,000 years for civilization to rebound, or they can just make it play out, and then it would take 1 million years for civilization to play out. But that's the psychohistorians. And then when you look at that job title, it's like, I think many people, psychoeconomics would also be a good job to have, right? Because economics and politics are so you took all the kind of like the fun and engaging, creative, visionary human stuff out of economics and out of politics. So I think that many jobs would actually, if you put a little bit more like therapy into it, I think that would be a good thing for humanity.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I mean, I'll add it in the show notes as well. That seems like a good suggestion. But furthermore, because people still don't really know what you're doing, because I remember when I first stumbled upon you online, and your business partner Henrik. It was actually during my study. It was in the very end. We went to Aarhus and we had a talk about velfærdsteknologi as a technology in the
welfare
society.
Technology.
Yeah, welfare technology. Yeah, and it was Henrik who was giving the speech. But then I later found out, there's also a podcast, and you also in the picture. And I was like, it's great energy that you have, and I was like, amazing. But that's a side topic. But like, it was a really interesting talk about, okay, what is it humans are really good at, and what is robot and AI will be really good at, and what is what we should still be very aware of, and to remember to not lose ourselves during that transitions. And unfortunately, I remember that it was a little bit sad. I felt that we didn't end up talking too much about the ethics and like how we actually can be more safe with playing around with all this tech. But it was really interesting to talk about these different skills that you talk about, these different cards and core things that we have, because it's so easy to get so magnetized or like fascinated by, this is fancy and smart and amazing, right? But you're also smart and amazing, but maybe you just haven't found out how you actually can embrace that and unfold that.
Sure.
How did you unfold what you are and doing? Because you are a futurist.
I am a futurist. Yes, I'm a futurist, and I am one of those, one of those children when I grew up in Denmark, never knew what I wanted out of life. And I was super, super curious. I've always been like, meddling in people's business or looking in their purses. Or if you invite me home, I would say to people, is there anything that I'm not allowed to, go and look into? Do you have a cupboard or, a drawer in your bedroom where I'm not allowed to go? So please tell me now. It's kind of like a disturbance. If you invite me home and you have like, a first floor and we are only on the ground floor and I don't know what's on the first floor. And then there's a part of me that would be like, but what's going on up there? So when my babies were small, I have 4 big boys now, but when they were small, I would kind of like put them on the staircase so that they would crawl up, and then I would go like, no, ooh, and go after them so I could go explore. And I've been thinking about, why is it because I'm nosy? Is it because I'm looking for loot? And I came to the conclusion it's because I actually really do like to help people. So, when you're young, you just want to help yourself. But then you get older, and then your kick out of life is when you can see other people thrive. I think that's kind of like when you're grown up, right? That's when you can't live without coffee, and you long to go to bed, and you actually get a kick out of helping other people. So when I go to your house and I know stuff about you and you tell me your deepest, darkest secrets, and I can see your wounded inner child, my brain can also see your future. So I can see what's in the cards for you, and I can see what trends are amazing for you to take hold of. I think it's like being a travel guide. If you wanted to go on a vacation and then you say, I would like this and that and so and so. And maybe if you don't have any legs, I wouldn't put you on an Ironman on Hawaii, right? Then I would say that's not in the cards for you. But maybe you could go on this race instead, where people are swimming. That would be perfect for you. So the more I know about you and the more safe you feel, the easier it is for me to kind of like design the perfect vacation for you. And it's the same with the future. It's like if people have all their, they have their fronts up and they're really scared about talking, or they're not in touch with themselves, then it's kind of like anything could be interesting, but it's going to be like a flat experience for you because don't know anything about you. So I think that's why kind of like my purpose in life is to crack people open and see what nasty stuff is inside of it. And then Henrik and I are very much into this trend that we call tribal to planetary. I've been in the game for 25 years. And when I started out, I was like, kind of like a waiter to my audience. So I would cater to their needs. If I had a client and they said, we would like this and that, and we want to see, the future of shipping or the future of the financial sector, I would cater to their needs. And then I realized after a few years that they kind of like weren't really interested in that.
No?
Yeah.
How come?
Because, it's boring.
Okay.
It's like you know it already. So it's really hard also to come with something because you just prolong the future. What they really wanted to hear about was all the other stuff. It's the in-between. It's what we call the blind spots. You do trend spotting, but you also do blind spotting. So when you look at trends, the trends are right in front of you. So you would say that a trend is that we go from money to cryptocurrency, or we go from working in teams with technology to working in teams with artificial intelligence. So you kind of say there's something that goes out of the system and something that goes in. So the trends are easy to see and talk about, but the blind spots are the things that you did not know were there. That's the thing that kind of comes like an unexpected thing, and you go like, whoa, I didn't expect a global pandemic at all. But you can see it when you know that it's there, right? It's like when you're driving in a car, you do not know that you have a blind spot before people tell you that you have a blind spot. And then it's super annoying that you have a blind spot. But when you then realize, oh, it's annoying because I could actually kill somebody with my car if I don't look in my own blind spot. And if you can get people to do that, like having this metaphorical speech where it's kind of like driving your car. You have a destination. So your vision is where would you like to go? And if you say that we are so far ahead in the game, we just want to be first, we want to win, we want to beat the competition, we want to go to this destination where we are the greatest, the biggest, all that kind of like old tribal stuff. And then we'll say, okay, just play along. What will happen? Now you're there. What then? Yeah, there's nobody else, right? And everybody looks at you and thinks that you're just the biggest idiot because you did not leave anything behind. Everybody else is like if you're driving in traffic and these people come driving like with 200 miles per hour in the opposite direction. It's like, what a stupid idiot. Because traffic of life is more like, let's go somewhere exciting. Let's not go where everybody went before. Let's make new roads. If we don't want to go to more, let's go to better. If we don't want to just cater to somebody else's needs, right? That you have somebody who's waiting for you to serve them. Or maybe then say, maybe they want something else, right? Maybe we just don't give people what they're asking for, but we're listening to what are their taboos, what are they longing for, what's in the blind spot, what could we do differently? And then when you can kind of like crack people open and say that the game is actually not so much about getting there. It's being the person that could get there, right? It's more like in the Fellowship of the Rings, where you become your character while doing something. And I actually do think that's kind of like the new also tech and work and life paradigm, is that it's supposed to be an adventure. It's supposed to be about getting more human along the way and not just going down, robot streets where we are more effective and then burning the planet while we're doing it. And that's that whole thing about not going to tribal, but going to planetary. And planetary is solving problems together. It's believing that there's enough to go around. It's you win, I win, where tribal is more like, I want to beat you. I want to be the best. I want to be the strongest because there's not enough to go around. So I'm always a little bit scared. I'm always a little worried about what could go wrong. And that game is dying. So it's also we would say, game over, and I hear you and I listen to you and you complain and you're scared. And then I'll tell people, okay, so now that's, on the table. Let's remove it and talk about what do you dream about? What are you longing for? How can you make the world a better place? And then they'll go like, I really don't know. And that's why you never trained that characteristics, right? If you're in a company, like when you're working in tech, you're so into growing, having everything under control, everyday life, being super busy about that, having the new technological system. You never talk about the purpose and the meaningfulness of the technological system. You start out by doing tech, and it's so constraining to people. And then inside of them, there's this cognitive dissonance, right? There's this feeling that it should be different, it should be better, but I can't kind of like see myself out of it. And then giving people this way out where you say, what if it's more about that Daniel is looking into a future that he can see himself in. That it's kind of like the trends will zoom in on you and you all of a sudden see all this complexity and you'll say, oh, that's amazing. Like right when you're going on a vacation, complexity is not a problem because you step into character. And then the cue is also that you co-create that future. So the future where I can come as a futurist and tell people, here are the trends, here are what these guys are doing, and here's a business case. That's over. That's over. Now we have to co-create the future because there are many futures. There's a lot of vacations to do. There's a lot of business cases to do. Have fun with it, but you need to co-develop your character. And also circling back to what you say about we should talk about the ethics. And I'll actually say that we have to co-create ethics as we go along. We can't sit in the past and talk about ethics. We actually have to go off-road because ethics is like traffic rules. And the traffic rules have to be co-created along the way as us experimenting, for instance, with AI about how do we make it more human, because you can't make an analysis on something that doesn't exist. So I'm all about pushing the rebel movement.
Yeah, because I think you said it in one of your podcast episodes with Henrik Foodcast. It's a Danish podcast, but it's a really good one. If you are Danish, I mean, Joyful Danish.
It will come in English, I promise. Yeah.
Oh, that's very good.
It's a time problem.
But I remember at some point you said that, what came first, the driver license or the car?
Yeah.
The car.
Yeah.
So... and that's when we see also, for example, European Union being so proud of making the first AI regulation, even though if you look into it, it doesn't apply to military. It's not restricted to military use.
Exactly.
So there's still so many things. There's the idea sounds good, but we still have so much ground to cover. I still feel even though I tried to ask, what would you say, that you are, you ask me, cryptotherapist, what is that? Well, I try to improve health in the blockchain and for crypto people. What's your normally pitch of because it seems like that's not also something that can be educated, or you take an education, you become a futurist, right? Because I can see on your website it says you describe yourself as world-class speaker, chief futurist, author, geek fan, mother, and pretty tired of old people of all age snuggling under the comfort of the past. What would you normally say to people who don't know what is a futurist?
I usually, if people say, where do you come from? Then I say the future. And then I'll just leave it there.
Nice.
Because in my book, everybody starts talking about the future. Everybody's interested about the future. So instead of me talking about what is a futurist, because a futurist is a person who professionally works with the future, which is future scenarios, trends, visions, strategies, ideas development, but not in the process manager way. It's more like, what could you imagine? If you jump out of what you know, what could you imagine? So I've always been super enticed, all my life, super enticed with people who broke the rules, what you call the game changer. And, Florence Nightingale, she's not an influencer on Instagram. With that name, she should have been. But she was, back in the 1800s, she was the woman who invented modern nursing. So she had this idea about, helping people, and she invented modern nursing. She was 15 years old, out of a wealthy family, and she just had this calling. I have to be where people are bleeding and infected and maggots and disgusting puke. You're 15 years old and you live on the countryside and you're rich and you have a horse. Why on earth do you want to do that? And her mother wouldn't talk to her. Her sister wouldn't talk to her. It was her dad who said, yeah, okay, I get it. I love you, so I will teach you, here's some money, learn some languages. And then she went to Crimea, where there was a horrible war. And all the men said, please go away. This is not a space for women. But they were so much under pressure because, blood everywhere. And they said, in the end, the doctors, okay then. And then they let her in with her female nurses, and she was known as the lady with the lamp. because she walked around in the dark with the lamp, and the soldiers would call her the lady with the lamp because she was like an angel coming down, doing something. And then she figured out it's something with bacteria. She said, oh, it's something with when it gets nasty. It's like then people really suffer and you have to amputate them and then they die. And it's something with something that we cannot see. But I had this, and that's future, right? It's like when you have this intuition, you have this gut feeling, you have this, voice speaking to you, this calling, this kind of like magical. I think that's so interesting that human beings can walk around on Earth and then we have like, I can take my hand and I can reach into the future and I can take an idea and then I can take it out. And then for me, it's like, whoa, this is the best thing ever. And then you show it to other people and they go, can't really see it. But that is the thing that has propelled humanity forward. The game changers, the people who said, I can change the game. And then they kind of like put every coin on the table and they say, I'm going to dedicate my full life to this. So Florence went back. She went to smart people, men, and said, I have this idea about bacteria. And they were all like, shut the fuck up. And she got sick, went to bed, and then she invented statistics in healthcare because nobody believed her, maybe because she was a woman. So she invented statistics and documentation in healthcare. She went to bed for like, I think, 14 years because she was ill. And then she wrote books about it. And she said that I speak in the language of God, and God's language is data or statistics or something like that. And then it was Queen Victoria who saw her and listened to her. And then she said, shut the fuck up to everybody else. I want nursing. And the kind of like, putting all your money on the table and saying, this is what I want to do. She hated women, by the way. She thought women nurses were complaining and soft and was like, get with the program. Very conflicted character. And then if you jump to, I think it's in Austria at the same time, you had Semmelweis. And Semmelweis had the same kind of idea because he had people coming in being sick and disgusting accidents. And then they would go down to deliver babies. So women came in and gave birth. And then he had this idea, it seems like you're dragging death with you. So if somebody was dying up here, and then you went down and you delivered a baby, and then they would die. And his idea was that you were dragging death. And then he had this cuckoo idea about maybe you should wash your hands. And everybody was like, why? Why? I'm a doctor. I'm the clean one. I'm the smart one. It's the women and the patients. They are disgusting. It's not me. And then he forced people to do it, and then nobody died while giving birth. But still, no, we don't want to do it. And why? Because Semmelweis was a bleeding idiot. He was super assholey about it. Actually, just like Florence Nightingale. Like pushing and making people feel like idiots. It's like, can't you see it, you stupid, obnoxious idiot? So for me as a futurist, it's not just about, the trends, the visions. That's kind of the tools for doing it. I'm always looking for the game changers. I'm looking for these people that everybody else would look at and say, what a stupid idiot. And then sometimes you can look at them and you can say, but you need the empathy card, or you need the keynote speaker card, or you need the write a book card, or you need, very often I'll have to say it's the belief card. I have so many, like we have this community of futurists, and I have so many of them where the only thing I have to say to them is that I believe in you until you're ready to believe in yourself. That's what I say. And then I say, that little voice on your shoulder that says that Daniel is so stupid, Daniel's ideas are crazy, nobody wants to believe in Daniel. Daniel should get a job, and Daniel should not think that he's very smart. That's voice we all have. I said, just make that voice go away. And then you put me on the shoulder instead. And then I'll say, Daniel, you're so amazing. I love that idea about cryptotherapy. That's the best idea ever. You should go and co-create stuff because people won't believe till they see. Right? That's why people say seeing is believing. No. It's the other way around. Believing and then seeing. Right? That's like radiation. Radiation. We have radiation all over. We can't see radiation, but radiation is Bluetooth, mobile phones. It's sun. What do you call that?
Sun
batteries, solar solar
rays.
stuff.
Right.
If we hadn't had people who harvested radiation that we cannot see and put that into technology and science, we would be living in the 18th century. And that's also why I find, and I'm sorry, Daniel, I know I talk a lot, but sometimes people are so complaining about everything, right? They say nothing is changing and everything is coming to an end. The world is under destruction. People are horrible. And then I always ask them, do you like floral heating? Do you have floral heating, Daniel? Do you have like heat in your floor?
Well, it's Portugal. It's non-existing technology.
It's non-existing in Portugal, right? In Denmark, it's everywhere. Everybody has floral heating. So I have to have a different metaphor. You can help me with that, Daniel. If I go to that's because you have outside heating. We don't have that in Denmark. And then people say, yeah, I like floral heating. And I say, yeah, it's because you like warm feet, right? So it's not so much the technology; it's more the purpose of the technology. Like you like to have warm feet, and then I say, yeah. There's also kind of like if you have floor heating, you'll always have a space in your house where there's warmer. Maybe in the kitchen, there's kind of like a tile that's super warm, and that's where the dog will sleep. And then they say, yeah, I love floor heating. So then you ask, okay, how much have you done in your life to get floor heating? And then they'll look like puzzled. And then I say, I can start. I did zip. I did like 0. That's my contribution to floor heating. But I do have floor heating in my house. And I guess that, since the beginning of time, like super tribal mode, people had cold feet. We're living in a cave, freezing all the time. And then there was this cuckoo idiot who said, do you remember with the fire, when the lightning struck and there was a fire and we were really scared about the fire and then we moved closer to the fire and it was actually pretty nice. Do you remember that? And then we took the fire home and everybody was like, no, don't do that. And then we could put our feet close to the fire. Do you remember that? Do you remember it was kind of like, oh, I didn't really like it. But now it's the best, right? Now it's a super cool idea. And now there's this other guy or woman who has this idea, do you know the rocks lying close to the fire? They seem kind of warm. Let's bring them into the cave. No! That would be the end of the world as we know it. Okay, I'm just going to put it while you're sleeping, right? Because everybody likes warm feet. And then it's nice. And I think that's kind of like if you just take that one idea through humanity, the driving force of warm feet has brought us this little, like, if you were a king back in the day, Daniel, you probably had one of those copper ovens that somebody else would heat up and put in the feet of your bed so that when you went on your big castle, you had warm feet and you would say, oh, that's nice. And then in Denmark, we had radiators, stupid, ugly radiators. In the 70s, for some weird reason, they were on the roof, on the upstairs of your house, which is like, it's like really stupid. Now you have a warm head and you have cold feet. And then somebody came with a crazy idea. Let's put it in the floor. And I'm pretty sure that every radiator person was like, what the hell are you talking about? You have to change everything, right? The whole distribution system and the technology. And no, it's going to be so expensive. And then the game changers, they're like, yeah, I'm just going to do it anyway. And now that's the new thing. Nobody wants to have an ugly radiator. Everybody wants to have it in the floor, at least in Denmark. And you walk around on that, complaining about your stupid life, right? You go to a supermarket, maybe in Portugal, where you're complaining about everything while you're picking up produce and clean water and toilet paper and you're putting it in and you're paying with a card in a machine where you're waving your magical hand. And then again, you are complaining about bad service and not being able to find a parking spot. And I find that so funny, right? That we are on a stage. It's like a theater. And this is epic times. Right now, Daniel, this is epic times. It's history book time. In 100 years, they will teach, what did people do in that time where they had the perfect storm of stupid politicians and war and cryptocurrency and budding therapy and a pandemic. Everybody was at home on the planet for 18 months. What did they do? They got a little fat and then now they can do online podcasting. That's what we gained from that. And I think that, if you kind of like just rise to the occasion, if we have a listener out there who's thinking, I'm a crazy cuckoo person, I could be a game changer. That's my purpose. That's what I do as a futurist, is that I show people the future, but I do it because I want to drag people into the rebellion, moving the world from tribal to planetary, and believing in them. So I'm more like a Gandalf. If it was Lord of the Rings, I'm not Frodo. I'm Galadriel. I'm the person that you will come to when it's dark and cold, and then I'll say, you can do it, Daniel. Come on, people have done this before you. Believe in it. Maybe it's going to take your whole life, and maybe you'll die in the process. And then 200 years will pass, and then everybody will say, Daniel was the best, because now cryptotherapist is the thing that saved the world. Maybe.
Maybe
That's
just
what
a
I
little
do.
bit. Yeah, thank you for that. And again, like you also have a book actually where people can read more about it. I'll link to that as well.
Yeah,
And you
Future
also
Sense. And it's
Future
called
Sense, yeah.
Future Sense for a reason, because the whole premise of the book is that everybody has future sense. So you're predicting the future all the time. Your mind is always thinking
Right.
about other stuff. I think a really good example of it is that if you're in a conference and you started out the day, you had your coffee, you had your pastry, and now you go in and it's like 10 o'clock and there's a person speaking and you really have to pee, right? And now there's a kind of like two minds going on. There's the one who's paying attention, trying to, and then there's the one that has to pee. and your pee personality is now making a scenario, and you're not even aware of it, right? But you're just thinking about, do I know where the toilet is? How far is the toilet? And if you don't know where the toilet is, then it's more an urgency for you, right? If you know, okay, it's just on the other side of go out in the hallway, it's on the other side. No problem. Do I have to go now? Do I have to go now? Should I wait until the break? Because then the queue will be longer. And if you're wearing like a full-on bodysuit or you have, a belt and stuff, and then you're thinking, okay, I have to go a little bit earlier and that's how your brain, if you become aware of it, your brain is always, always, always making this kind of like little micro scenarios about how can Daniel optimize his life so that his life will be better. But if you're not aware that you're doing it, then either if something changes, then you get super scared about the future because you don't have the cards to play that future. And then we teach people to say the Danish word "nodada," which is like, or "ulala," or whatever you say in your language. It's kind of like easy does it, right? Don't panic. You can panic later. Just go back to And the other thing is that you become kind of like, you become really, really scared. That thing that was urgent, when something changes, it becomes more urgent. And then you look at what other people are doing, and then it becomes like a theme. So for instance, flexible workplaces. I've been talking about flexible workplaces and hybrid work for 15 years. But then COVID became IT manager and shut the world down, and everybody then went online in like an hour, 2 weeks, because we already had that infrastructure. But now everybody sees it as an urgency, and then it's a community thing, and then it happens. But it takes every oxygen in the room. It's the same with AI now. I've been talking about AI for like 10 years at least. Nobody wants to hear about it, but now it's here, right? Now it's in front of me. Now I can see it. Now I believe it. Now it's everything. And then my kind of like my purpose in life is also to say to people, okay, that's one trend, right? But if you only put that one and you say, this is the horse that we put in front of our carriage and the carriage is still crap, well, your future will be crap. So if you just use it to prolong what you're already doing, you want to have more productivity and more efficiency. Sorry to say, honey, you're just automating your own job. You are the one who will become obsolete in the future. So now we do the breath work, right, Daniel? We do the therapy work. It's like, breathe, because people get so panicky, when they see other people and they believe other people are ahead in the game, and other people now have IA, and other people are doing customer service with AI, and we don't have AI. And you don't make good decisions when you're in that space. So I think we have that in common. I'm kind of like a future therapist, and you're a crypto therapist.
Maybe. I mean, it is definitely something that seems a bit lonely, that not so many people are doing this, but I'm slowly discovering more and more people doing it. I would like to go back, because I really like what you said also earlier about this as a belief and empathy card, and those people who really think differently, I remember that was what eventually led me to buy my first Mac. because of, that commercial they had for like 7
Yeah, yeah.
years
Yeah.
when Steve Jobs came back, and there was actually no computer in it. I actually found some of the text because I still kind of get goosebumps
Yeah.
because it talks
Yeah.
exactly about what you said. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the one who see things differently. They're not fond of rules. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can do is ignore them, because they change things, they push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius, because the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. And Steve Jobs did that.
Yeah.
You get goosebumps too, right?
Yeah.
I still do it, and it's crazy. But this guy, Steve Jobs, talking about empathy, not really that much. He was pretty much a harsh leader, apparently, but he made things happen, And I heard the same thing about Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and so on. But you can't really ignore them. They really do change the course of history.
It's interesting, right? That they kind of like start out in what we could say the right way, and then they become these 100% assholes. I think it's...
Yeah, what is the quote like? You end up maybe wanting to be the hero you want, and then end up live enough to become the villain you didn't want to be.
That was exactly actually what I was going to say. I think it's Alfred. I think it's the butler in Batman who says that you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. That is
Master
super
Bruce.
true. That's super true, Master Bruce. Yeah. And I think that's super, super, super true. And that's because you start out by inventing a character, and then you step into the character and you play the character, right? Like Steve Jobs stepped into the role with the turtleneck and the visionary, and he used the quote, and he actually was that. And not everybody, but people like you and me would buy into it, right? Because we want to be like that. We want to be the square pegs and the round holes and the ooh-doo-doo-doo. So you have that kind of like, you look at it and you say, ooh, I can see myself in that future. And then they kind of like become so rigid in that character that it becomes what is called an identity. And now the identity is rigid. So the identity stops being empathetic, stops being kind of like passionate, has cuckoo ideas about how to cure your own cancer. And instead of taking facts in and saying, okay, annoying, new blind spots, things that I didn't know, you keep on playing the old game. So you kind of like force your game onto other people, because that cognitive dissonance about looking at yourself and thinking, oh my God, I have to start over. I have to play a new character, or I have to pass the baton to somebody else because I can't bring this any further. And then instead you become the villain, right? Like Elon Musk was also the same. Like everybody bought his EV because we wanted to save the world. That was what he told us. And now he's like so crazy. And then you start thinking about, should I sell this car? Shouldn't I? And I think that kind of like, again, that character flaw that humanity has, that we are doomed to constant co-creation, making up new characters, killing off your old character. And if you can't do it, then maybe just say, okay, I'm just going to sit here, step away, and then leave the future to somebody else. But I also do think that it's the system. So it's like, if we are in this car metaphor, that the car came before driver's license, and actually also roads came after cars. So you did have roads with horse vehicles, but you didn't have roads designed for cars. But then we designed roads as we had them, right? So you just say, let's make this like it is. It's like if you have that little, what do you call it, the mappen, what's it called, the folder, when you save something on your computer.
Right.
You put it into a folder. And when we are working in a Word document or Pages document, that's actually just a role, like, those doom scrolls from ancient Egypt, where you had that paper and you take that technology, you just put that in to the computer. And the reason why you then put it into a folder is because that's what we did in the old days when you had a secretary and you took a piece of paper and it was written out on a typewriter and then you put it down. And that's actually, you're creating this second brain for yourself, like an amplifier for your own work life. Every technology is just an amplifier of our own creativity. But then we get stuck in it because our metaphors, then we use them over. You take that stupid folder and you put it into a computer, and now we do the same. So that's also again that you have to change the game. You have to say that you can't just take this and put it into this, because then people will behave like this. And I think that when we look at Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, or maybe we also have a friend who was this super funny guy once, and now he had success, and now he's also a villain. I think it's the system that makes us villains. It's like when you play Monopoly, the game of Monopoly, and then everybody becomes an asshole. And then you're thinking, oh my God, humanity are assholes. No, it's the game. Monopoly is designed to take your inner asshole, take the most greedy part of yourself and put it on the table. And we all have that. And I think that, again, if we just not only change the gamers or we look at individual, but I think right now we have to change the game. We have to make a different game, new roads, where we don't start with technology. We start with humanity. We start with meaningful and purpose and community and empathy. And the right question to ask, for instance, if we are now talking about AI, is not to say, how can this technology make us more productive and efficient? That's the wrong question. It is to say, we want a better world. We all agree that we want a better world. What is a better world? For me, a better world is middle class. I think the middle class is one of the best things that has happened in recent time. Do you know, Daniel, how long we have had a middle class on planet Earth?
Initially I felt like 50 years, but it's probably been more,
it's 70.
right?
No, it's 70 years. 70 years.
So like back in the medieval age, there was also like poor and middle, or would you say only poor and rich?
It was all poor.
Okay.
So you had like a few rich people, and then you had everybody else was super poor. And maybe body, you had a little bit of a middle class, but that was usually, like you say that what is a privilege? A privilege is me holding the bag of candy and say you can pick one. That's having a privilege. I think that's just the best. It's a Danish comedian called Anders Madsen who said that when you have a privilege, it's like you are holding the bag of candy and you're saying, yeah, we can share. It's the same like with women and men, or with white people, or, rich people, is that, oh, so you want to be middle class? Okay, I'll call you a baron. But that's, again, it's the rich people who are defining the game. Sorry, I just have to cough.
It's okay. But it reminds me of this joke as well, like back to your example with the Stone Age caveman people. There was also some comedians, Danish comedian app, the podcast I sometimes listen to, they were talking about, it's crazy, the idea of like the first person who did whatever, like you said with the rock, or like, let's put the pig or the horse we just hunted for days into the fire. Yeah. Let's burn it. Let's see what happens.
Crazy.
Hey, it actually tastes pretty good. Maybe we should try to taste it. Even look, it looks pretty burnt. But, or like the guy who like, look at this idiot. He takes a potato he could eat right now, put it in the ground.
Yeah.
And put the dirt on it.
I could talk about that for days. I also love looking at, how stuff is made, like this assembly line, when you have those shows where it's how do you make a lipstick, or how do I make ice cream?
Yeah.
And I just love it. I love that whole process and thinking about, so they started out by doing it by hand, and then they did this, and then they did this machine. When you go skiing and you're sitting in a lift, and then you're thinking about, okay, how does this start? Did it start just by people walking up with their skis on their back, and then they ski down, and then probably maybe they took a horse carriage, and the rich people would go up, and then they're thinking maybe we should just do something with a cow that would pull people up, and now you have this whole system, right? Now you have this system, and I can buy a lift cart, and now what was before just for a small class of people is now for everybody. So when we say trickle down and economics doesn't work, there's some sort of stuff that actually works, right? Like vacation were for only rich people for hundreds of years. And now we will actually say that, everybody should have a vacation. Maternity leave for a small group of people. And now it's actually for, some people will say, no, that's actually a human right that you can spend time with your baby. So there is some sort of like a trickle down, but the amazing thing is that now when we have this middle class, that's actually very comforting for the world, because middle-class people, maybe 89% of middle-class people, don't want to be rich people. They don't want to be like Jeff Bezos, being super assholey about everything that he does, going to Venice like he did recently, and people put out like a huge poster where they just say, "We don't want you here." He went for his wedding, and everybody was just, "Could just please go away." And then he has, I don't know if you've seen Jeff Bezos' house, where he has a hedge that's like 12 meters high. And he's constantly battling with his neighbors about his stupid tall hedge that he has to keep people out. It's like, you thought you won at the game of life? It's like, again, winning in Monopoly. Everybody else thinks that you're an idiot. And is that success? No, I think most people, like, I think it's about 89%, if you look at the statistics, are more like, no, I want to be a good person. I want to help other people. I want to succeed in my own life, but I also want to make it so that my community succeeds. And I also want a sustainable world, and I want people to thrive. I don't like to see poor people getting shot at television. I don't know what to do about it, but I basically don't like it. And I'm actually willing to pay taxes. If you could guarantee me that they will go into the right systems, I will pay taxes happily. I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it for being happy. So if we say that the purpose of everything we do right now is to survive and thrive in the middle class, so we have to lift from the bottom, which means that when you talk about AI, one of the key questions as a futurist, I will say, is who are you helping? Can you lift the bottom? Look at what it is that you're doing with your product. How can AI make it so that you are lifting from the bottom? Because if you're lifting from the bottom, what will happen is that more people will thrive. You will have more customers. You will have a better brand. Your co-workers will probably be more happy because it's more meaningful for them. In the long run, we don't see polarization of society. We have less crime. So it's like from more to better. It's like more. Then I'm doing one thing and then one thing and one thing. It's like sequential. If you're doing better, it's like saying, I can do this and this and this and this and that. I can be a good person who does good things, and I can actually also earn good money. So it might not be more money, but it's good money because it's circular. I'm saving the planet. I'm getting home to my family. I have time to spend with my parents if they are sick. It's like better, better, better. It's like it's kind of all these kind of like puzzle pieces. So this is right. Monopoly in the old day, and the future is more like a computer game or puzzle pieces. And it's like super complicated. But then you're thinking, but there's so many people, right? It's community. So we are doing it together. And I heard this one guy who also said that it's interesting that this kind of like evil capitalistic version that we're living in. So there's, in my book, nothing wrong with capitalism, but it has become based on crisis, war, and constant worrying. And so that means that when somebody has a vision about, could we do this, then I will make you worry. I'll say, are you sure that that's going to, and can you fund it? And you want to take a break in life, and are you sure you can go? So that's kind of like people start by making you scared because they're scared themselves. And then we're always looking for the next disaster. And that's that kind of like catastrophe capitalism that we're in right now. So we need to make greed for good instead. That you can still be greedy, but you have to make it for something else. And making people thrive and making kind of like regenerative. And then you measure it like I'm a biologist by education. So nature would never say growth is a success. Like never. It's homeostasis. Homeostasis is that I put something in, I make a huge big flower, it's beautiful, the bees can come and blah, 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 blah. Then it dies, goes back into the ground, food for the worms, starts over again. So that cycle, I think that's the future, is that feeling safe and feeling that you're at home and feeling that you matter, and then you use your creativity, you are kind. We are not called human evil. We are called humankind. I think that's a clue. Be kind, and then also be a game changer. Those three things, like creativity, human kindness, and being a game changer. If you are in doubt, play those three things.
And that leads me perfectly to, because I usually ask the previous guest to ask a question to the next guest. And this one is from Aston Barger. He's from onchain.org. He's in Web3. And he asked, and I said, it's most likely going to be an Skare, a futurist, very positive, seemed very, yeah. And then he asked, okay, how can you be optimistic about the future and still being present and grounded in the world? That was his question.
That's a very good question. And usually I'll say that you don't have to be optimistic. I think that the kind of like the autopilot, again, going back to everybody is predicting the future all the time. That's also why he's feeling worried, right? It's because you're seeing the future and you see all this shit going on in the world, all this tribal system fighting for survival. What I see is a system dying, going down in flames. It's actually called an extinction burst. A good metaphor for it is that if you go into an elevator and you push a button and then it doesn't work, you don't just comply and go out again and take the stairs. Most normal people will push the button again, and then they will push it again, and then they'll push it, and they will scream about it, and then they'll go like, nada da. And that's the word again. The magical word is nada da. And then you'll go nada da, and then you'll go out, and then you'll take the stairs. And that's what's happening right now, is that we see this old tribal system where a few rich people want to dictate and have all the privileges and consumer, destroying the planet, fracking oil, wars, Putin, killing people in Gaza. All that shit is blowing up in our faces. There's nothing new in it. It's not a problem that arose yesteryear. This has been going on for generations. The new thing is that it amplifies because we have new technology. That means that it's in your face now. And because you can kind of like, if it was a poo, you can smell it. So we also call it poo politics. Like if you see black people today in the States, they'll say that, welcome to our world. This is how it was. You get arrested in the street for just walking down. That's what we told you. The new thing is that it's happening to white people. So welcome to our world. It's like sustainability and climate change that people are saying, I can't see it, I can't smell it. And then we had a summer a few years back where the heat wave, it was so warm that we had forests just combusting in Sweden and Australia. The hard thing about it in Denmark was that we couldn't light the fire in the grill. So everybody was like, I can't light the fire in the grill. Now I smell it. But then the normal reaction for people is that we get the ick. So we get this yuck, like, oh my God, what is the world coming to? Because you're a nice person. So you're thinking it's evil people messing up the planet and everybody is an idiot because that's how your brain works. It's like something happens, black, white. Either you're with me or you are against me. So if you are against the bombing of Iran, then it's because you are like, and then they just, it's no. I'm all in for regime change, but I just don't think bombing, I don't think that's a good thing. Not a da.
Right.
Come home to yourself. And then typically...
And how do you do that?
Oh, you just do it. Do it all the time. It's like super, super hard the first 33,408 times. And then it's like everything else, just training. I'm also a mother of 4.
Practices
That's practice.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's
practice.
4 kids.
I have 4 kids. So my whole, for 20 years has been like, not a da. Because for me, my autopilot, you have to know yourself, like you're a therapist, right? So if you know yourself, you did your inner child work, you look at your own actions. And then when you do stuff, like if I don't go the not a da with my children, usually I'll go like super bananas. So I'll be screaming and yelling, ah! And then after I do that, I look at myself, and then it's not like I'm thinking, wow, Skare, you handle that well. It's more like I'm really embarrassed, and then I have to say, sorry. And what you then do as a futurist is that you say, when I feel I'm heading down that road and street again, and I know I have a trigger, what do I then do? Maybe I'll remove myself from the equation. With my kids, when they were small, we had time machine. So if I started going down that street, they could say, Mommy, time machine. And then I would have to say, like taking myself back. And then we start over. So now they say that thing to me again. And then I go, okay. And then you can look at kind of like your ground character. Typically, you will be either an optimist or a pessimist. So typically, you will start to predict the future like an optimist would say, it's going to be fine. Everything will work out for the better. But you could also be the pessimist and you can say, no, I actually think the world is coming to an end and this is all shit. And then you go nada down that. And then you say, okay, how can we bring a balance to the force? Maybe we should bears out in each direction, because typically optimist and pessimist will disagree when they start out, and then I'll say, how can you be so naive? How can you be? And I'll say, you're such a party pooper. Just start by dreaming. It doesn't cost you anything. And then we go, no. Because we should not be each other's enemies. That's the least we should do and waste our energy on, is that we do have enemies out there. But go back and say, don't be left versus right, men versus women, rich versus, maybe rich versus poor. But don't be, educated and non-educated, or optimist and pessimist. Go back and then start out by saying, what are we longing for? So that is, to answer your question, is how do you keep at it? You choose to keep fucking at it. What you believe is always a choice. It's like if you say, do you believe that people are inherently good? And then most people would actually go like, yeah. So say, yeah, but it's an uphill battle, right? It's not like you see it all the time. It's more like you see so much crap happening. And then you choose to believe that people are good, because then you can see it, then you're looking for it, and it's like ambers, like you like, again, coming back to what you said about putting the potato in the ground, or roasting the squirrel and having that cook idea. It's like, it's because I believe fun stuff will happen. And maybe I'll fuck it up like 99 times, but then there was this one where it actually went through. And that's the game changer. So you choose to believe that we can make a better world.
Okay. A small exercise, because I usually try to also share a short exercise or something supplemented to what the guest is saying as well, because often many of these different exercises people do tend to be more mentally or psychologically. But if you're already burned out, or like you're fried your brain, that's kind of where the overload already is. Well, as a psychomotor therapist, I tend to start more from the body then. And it doesn't have to be too woo-woo, but like one simple exercise could simply be to like either finger press, or actually like you hold your hands and then you actually push. You hold that tension or whatever mental tension you also have, and then hold it for like maybe 5 to 10 seconds. And then on around the 10 second, on your breath out, as you stop activating your muscles, you actually release that thought, or like that stubbornness you have maybe about something. Very great. Do you have a question for the next guest? I can say that most likely it's going to be Ling and Litty. They are NFT artists and also focusing actually on trying to improve health, but they're doing art and stuff like that. Do you have any question in general for the next guest?
So they do art and stuff. Young people, old people? They sound young.
I think they're young.
Yeah.
Because I can't see the picture, so we'll see tomorrow.
I think that, just to put a little bit of words to it, I think that creativity, art is for me like in the basic. If you had like the new Maslow's pyramid of needs, I would put creativity in the bottom. And then I would have humankind in the middle, and I would have game changer in the top. I think that we are here to be creative. I think everybody has a creative force, and I think that we destroy so much creativity when we ask people, so what are you doing it for? Right? What's the purpose of it? And it's like, that's for something else. That you do art and you do creativity because it's art and creativity. As soon as you say you have to apply it to something, it becomes more like, a product. And I think it's not that that's a bad thing. It's more to say that I think it's so important for the future of humanity that we say that creativity and art in itself is not useful. It is not productivity. It is an expression of what goes on inside you. So if you could help me formulate a question for them, where it's safe, because I'm sure that they get punked a lot about that. You make an NFT because it's supposed to help you use blah, 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 blah. But if we could keep those, is it 2 women? Which really doesn't matter.
I think the man and a woman.
A man and a woman.
Couple.
Okay, so if you could kind of like ask them, what would actually happen if you went all in to say that you are not catering to a productivity need? You don't have to explain yourself that this is useful for something. You just trust that this creativity in itself will kind of like harbor the powers of the future. So if you went all in on that would be my question, right? If you went all in on that idea, your love for it, and you were sure that everything would work out perfectly, you would have a success 100%. What do you imagine will happen?
All right. And that's a good question. All right. Yeah, because we're a little bit running out of time now. But people can find you on Instagram and the book and everything will be linked
and LinkedIn
in the show notes.
Future Sense, the book. I think we're sharing a link to our Futurist free membership. So we have a pro membership and a free membership. And if you want to take the free membership, you get our Future Sense on an audiobook. And you also get there's a little course where you awaken your future sense. And it's like 5 days where I give you a little task, a little assignment as the Galadriel that I am. And then on day 6, you meet the Oracle. So, of course, we have an AI Oracle that will ask you about your purpose in life and why you are here. And then you get your answers to that AI Oracle, which is basically me. And then I will tell you what your quest in life is. So there's a little bit of stuff there to have fun with.
And everything is in English?
Everything is in English.
All right, perfect. Everything will be linked. And, well, do you have any last thing you maybe want to ask or say?
May the future be with you. And believe that you can change the world, because the ones who do are the ones who believe are the ones who do.
Nice.
That's how we phrase it, right?
And stay human.
Yeah, stay human.
All right. Thank you for joining. Take care. Joyful Danish. Stay human. Is it even still possible to stay human? Maybe. It's not too late.